Welcome into the Brilliant Show tonight. We got a very special guest, a legend, might I say, around these areas and all over the independent wrestling scene. Mr. John Saxon, what's going on, Mr. Saxon?
Hey, man, another day in paradise, man. Glad to be here.
Man, yeah, let me get this set up, and then we're gonna kick off because I got a couple things I want to ask right off the bat. Let me just make sure I get this post done right, so everybody in the world can see it, not just certain people.
All right.
We have one of your favorite people on last night, Mr. Landry, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I peeked in a few times last night.
Yeah, he oversteps his boundaries a lot. But I want to jump into your career, how you got started. Because what did you debut in 1990 or 91? What was it?
Well, no, actually, I started the wrestling business in 1988.
Wow.
Yeah, long story short, and I kept trying to break in, and back then you just had to be connected or know somebody, and I didn't, but I just kept hanging around and getting ran off by the boys, and Skandar Akbar used to just hammer me because, and so what I did is when Bill Watts stopped operating, I was going to go to a wrestling school in Atlanta. I was there in 87, and they did advertisements. There was a show that was phenomenal back then by Joe Pedicino on channel. I guess he owned Channel 69, and they did a thing called Superstars of Wrestling, and they aired wrestling from all over the world. It was about a 9-hour show every Saturday night, and they would advertise the academy for the local, and it was Jody Hamilton School. And I was fixing to enroll there, and I had a family issue. I had to move back to Louisiana, and Watts had shut down, so Louisiana was kind of nothing was happening. Once Watts stopped doing business, she had a couple indie shows here and there, and I saw an advertisement in my local hometown newspaper for an event in Natchitoches, Louisiana, and I said, wow, I'm going to go to this because I'm going to talk to somebody, and somehow I'm going to make this happen. And I did, and luckily for me, they were wanting to run some towns, and my hometowns, they had no contact. They didn't know anybody. And the promoter came in and said, look, we would love to run in Alexandria, but we don't know. I said, well, dude, I know everybody. I'm an athletic coach. I'm involved. Trust me. So what I did is I came in through the back door. I started promoting. So the boys would have to talk to me because I was paying them. And that was kind of my thought. If I pay these guys and we do a show, I'll get to know them. And believe it or not, that's how I started, was a promoter. And then Maniac Mike Davis and Alan Martin kind of warmed up to me, and they were working. It was IWF out of Lafayette. This guy named Ed Falk, very notorious. Matter of fact, if you're familiar with Joey Jackson out of the Lafayette area now, he was leaving IWF as I was going in. And I think he went up to the Pacific Northwest to work for Don Owens' group, or it may have been Sandy Barr by then. But that's how I got started, and Mike Davis started to teach me stuff. And basically, because back then, it was one of those things, you get in however you can. And if you're not connected, which I wasn't, I didn't know anybody, that was my way of getting in, was starting off as a promoter.
Man, that's an awesome start out. Becca Chambers says hello. I don't know why she's still mad at me.
Well, she's a female. Do they need a reason?
Yeah, that's true. Dwayne Thibodeau says, what's happening?
Oh, TJ the Player Sullivan. That's way down the bayou, home area.
So you got in by promoting. And let me just ask you this. On the independent scene back in the 80s and the early 90s is a lot different from what the independent scene
is.
Like
Lord,
now.
Yes.
What were some of the promotions back then that were kind of top dogs? Because I know that Mid-South they were at the end, Bill Watts' stuff was at the end.
Right. And Bill Watts had sold. By then, Bill Watts, when he sold out to Crockett, it just kind of fractured Louisiana, Mississippi. There wasn't a whole lot going on. But then Ed Falk's IWF kicked up, and he was trying to do something. Then you had Grizzly Smith, who was doing a company called 5 Star out of Baton Rouge. And he was running some towns, doing some stuff. Then here and there, you had different groups that would pop up. NWF that was Buck Robley. He had a money guy out of New Orleans, and they did some stuff. but none of it was sustained. It was, hey, we're trying to come into this territory after Watts had done tremendous business for many years, but the economy was bad. They didn't have TV. It was a struggle for any. You could have top guys, and Robley did, and Falk did too. And you could draw some people, but it just wasn't, without that TV exposure, man, it was brutal to try to draw crowds.
So Dwayne here says you had a match, you worked 62 minutes, tore the house down, and enjoyed every time we worked each other. Man, give us a little tidbit in on this.
I can tell you where that was. That was in a small town, Gaines, Louisiana. It was a spot show for Frankie Jeffries. I was brand new to their group. And yeah, we went out there and we were new to each other. And I was trying to make an impression because I was just breaking out in Louisiana area and in Mississippi and places like that. So I wanted to go out there and make a statement. And a lot of people, if you ever saw TJ, a lot of people thought we were related because he was shorter in stature, very muscular built. We had the same facial features. And it was so funny because he was kind of a brawler. He had a boxing background, believe it or not, and just a wild man. He's a brother from way back. And man, we just went out there and we got going. It was one of those things that kind of took a life of its own. And man, we just kept going. And the funny thing is, I can't remember my name most days, but I remember getting to the back when we were finished. And he came up and man, he hugged me and he's like, "Wow, dude, I've never done that before. I was waiting for something like this." And I thought, great, because I felt like I made an impact, especially with him, because he was one of the local guys. He was in with the promoter, you know, and man, I've known him ever since. And he's a wild man, dude. Had to work in the bars with him a few times and stuff like that. And let me tell you what, he's one of those guys. You love him to death. He's hilarious, but he's also a one-hitter quitter. He's not a guy you want to take a right hand from because he was tough. Good dude, man. But I remember that very well.
What? Hey, Yellow Hornet.
Oh, wow. Yellow Hornet.
Let's see. He was the only one that could push me, mush it that way he did. So, hey, man, let me ask you, yeah, our Tommy's in here now.
Mercury McLeod.
Yeah.
I gave him that name.
Man, if you look back, I got to take a second because last night we did a show 2.5 hours. I didn't plug my sponsor one time. I'm sure.
No, go ahead, bro. Hey, those are the people to pay the bills, man. You got to get them.
You got to get it out. StrongCoffeeCompany.com. Go check them out. Use the promo code ATI Wrestling to receive 20% off at StrongCoffeeCompany.com. They got a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It is unbelievable. They also got Snickerdoodle, and other flavors as well. Go check them out there. John, I want to jump back into it. We was talking about the difference between now and then.
Oh wow, yeah.
I'm an old school type guy. So I love that old school feel back from the 80s.
Sure.
90s. I love that stuff. So it's evolved into a whole different thing now.
Yes.
When you look at it, what's your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing, and I think one thing you'll learn if guys stay in the wrestling business long enough, man, and here's the truth of the matter is we go through stages. When we're young and vigorous and we want to cram everything into a match and we want to do everything, then, there's a point where some veteran guy finally gets through to us and settles us down a little bit and makes us understand that it's not the moves, man. That's not what draws the money. It's these things. It's the small things. Do these things. The funny thing is as we get old and it changed, we all got bitter. All the veteran guys get bitter and, oh, this is terrible. And they get griping. And I was one of them for a good while. I kind of didn't like it. I was like, man, these guys, these young kids ain't got a clue. They don't know how to draw money, things like that. But I will say this made a huge difference for me in the wrestling, just even dealing with the wrestling business at all, because I was broke in legitimate territory, old school by veteran territory guys. This was their lifeblood. This is how you paid your bills. This is, you know what I'm saying? They took that seriously at all times because you were making a living at it. And most guys now in independence, you can't make a living at it. It's a part-time thing, hoping you get to a level where you can make a living at it. So we got to where it was your lifeblood, and you would, when things changed, you would get upset. Oh, you don't do it that way, you know. But let me tell you, a good friend of mine, and you may or may not ever heard of him. He's from Chicago. A guy named Jason Dukes. Wrestled with Insane Clown Posse a lot back in the day. He did a gimmick called Sexy Slim Goody, and got a lot of exposure from that. Phenomenal talent, miniature Playboy Buddy Rose is what he was. You know, he pointed out to me some time back, because we still talk. You know, I still have contacts with guys in the business. He said, you know, Saxon, he said, but here's the problem. When you watched it and you were young and you fell in love with it, and then one day you finally got to do it. But when you started learning to do it, it wasn't quite what you had watched. It had changed a little bit. He said, then you have guys like you. You've been around it for over 25 years. It's changed 2 more times since then. It can't stay the same. No matter how much we want it to, it can't. He said, because you have to understand, younger generation does not identify with that. And it was like a light went off. I was no longer like an angry veteran about the way they were doing it. I understood. He made it where I understood why they were doing it that way. And now I look at it completely different, because here's the thing. When I started, veteran guys would tell you something and it was law, and you took that and that was it. You didn't question it, because that's how they made money. And that's what I was interested in, was making money at it. Trying to make a living, because I didn't want to get a regular job. So young guys now, I get mad every time I see a veteran start trying to belittle younger guys. I will literally get really aggravated, because here's what they don't take into consideration. You take any guy that came up in the territories, okay? He had the benefit of walking into arenas after people had seen him on TV repeatedly. So even if he was the guy losing all the time, okay? And I'll point out Mike the Hippie Boyette, who was such a phenomenal talent. I don't know if you remember Hippie Boyette. Yep, I'll get a little old, and some young people will be like, who's he talking about? You know, Boyette, I watched him walk into the Rapides Parish Coliseum, 0-75 on TV, lost every match. But you know what? Also got the most heat of anybody on the card that night. The only person that got a bigger response coming out of the locker room was Junkyard Dog. Okay. And Boyette hadn't won a match in forever. But here was the thing. He was getting a reaction. Why? Because people had seen him. So when I listen to veteran guys, oh, we did this and that. Yeah, well, you were on TV. This poor kid now, this 19, 20-year-old kid has to walk out in arenas and towns where people have never seen him. They don't know what he does. They're not going to be impressed. I don't care. They're not, because you haven't done anything yet. Where when you walked out there, you were getting a reaction whether you lost or won based on what people had already seen on TV.
Right.
And young guys now don't have the advantage of that, man. And it sucks for them, because they have to listen to Vince. Oh, we sold out every arena, which are a bunch of lies. Okay. That's so overstated by veteran guys. If I had $1 for every veteran wrestler that lied, I could retire 10 times. But they don't identify. The older guys just don't identify with the way it's done now. Okay. And now you have to be diverse. You have to be completely different, man. If you can't do what the young guy now does, how's your match going to get over? You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to be multi-talented now to be really successful. Now, anybody can go out there and do great matches with the same guy every night. But what I learned, adapt. I heard Jake Roberts say that many a day. Mm-hmm. You always got to be able to work to the level of your opponent. And let me tell you what, if you want to be truly talented, I'll say Arn Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Never outshined the guy he worked with. He took that guy and did what that guy could do. And if the guy was losing, he still made the guy look legit. But if he was winning, okay, he knew how to get himself over without burying somebody else. So, you know what I'm saying? So it is so night and day now, but it has to be. And this is the way I always describe it when guys say, oh, back in my day. Well, let me tell you something. The NFL is not the same either. Mm-hmm. I remember when an offensive lineman was 270 pounds. Okay. Now the average offensive lineman in the NFL is 335 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not the same game.
Nope.
Okay.
And it's so much faster too.
Right. Bigger, stronger, faster. They pass primarily, where we ran the ball 700 times. See what I'm saying? That it's not just wrestling. It's Now, here's what didn't change. And this is what I stress to the young men. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking your cool, fancy moves sell the tickets. That's not what sells the tickets.
Nope.
Jerry Lawler ain't never done a backflip in his life and drew a lot of money. Okay. It's you. It's your character. It's your
Charisma.
presentation. It's your connection with
Mhm.
the audience. And that, my friend, if you get that, life gets easy. I mean, it truly does. In the wrestling business, that will make you more successful. You'll make more money. You'll get booked more. And that will never change. Because if you ain't selling, a good example, okay, I guess, and forgive me because I'm not really up as much on WWE stuff, but I do know, I knew all the Usos. I worked with Alpha, Sika, Samu, Fatu. The only ones I didn't work were Roman Reigns and the twins because they were all kids when I worked for their dad. They were little kids. Okay. I guess Jay's the one with the belt. Is Jay Uso really that wrestling talented? But I bet you he sells the most merch.
Yeah, well, you look at the crowd. Look at what.
Thank you.
I'm not the biggest fan of it, but look at the crowd.
Remember this, and this is always my thing, and I guarantee you some indie guys, if you ask them, here's what I tell every one of them. Remember this, no matter what, it's a business. It's a fun business, but it's a business. The guy drawing the tickets, the guy selling the most T-shirts, the guy doing business, the guy is going to get hired.
Yep.
If you go out there and entertain your buddies in the back, okay, you're not going to be as successful. I'm sorry, you're just not. Connect with your audience. I tell my guys, that all the time. Connect with the audience. Don't try to impress yourself or talk about how great your match was. Let the crowd tell you how good it is. So that part's still the same, but everything else, oh man, night and day.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get to a couple of things here. I saw Tommy put something that I want to ask, but Frankie Thomas, love me some Saxon asshole. Just playing all respect. Frankie Thomas is, to me, I've always been a big fan of Frankie's. Frankie is a great talent. He's come a long ways from the first time I saw him, and he's been around a minute too. But
yeah, Frankie will always tell everybody, man, Saxon threw me out the back door of an arena one time with my gear and told me don't ever come back until I get real training. And that is the true story. But let me tell you, he is one of those guys that endured me when I was at my worst because I was brutal about the wrestling business. And let me tell you what he did. He didn't quit. He recommitted himself, hooked up with a very good friend of mine to get more training, and that's Cassidy Riley, who was
I was going to say Cassidy.
Yeah, I've known Cassidy since he was 18 and was breaking into the business, and phenomenal. Love him.
Oh, yeah.
And
great.
He badgered him until Cassidy put some time into him and taught him. And then guess what? He came back, and years later, I was booking Frankie and getting him paid, and I traveled with him. And when I'm in West Monroe, sometimes I stay at the house with him and Brittany, and I've known Brittany since she was 6 years old. And let me tell you what, he put his time in. And I literally had to tell him one time, why are you asking me this? He said, well, because I said, no, you're that guy now. You're the veteran guy now. Dude, you've been doing this a long time. You ain't got to ask me. Young guys need to ask you. And a lot of people don't know the extent of all the stuff he's done. He's done some stuff for AEW. He's done a lot of extras work for WWE. He's traveled. I mean, great guy, dude. Love him to death. And a great personality. He's one of the guys that figured it out for sure.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Frankie's great. As a matter of fact, I reffed the match between Frankie and Cassidy one night, and I don't think we need to go back to that. But yeah, I think as a young ref, I think I missed a little something. But they told me, they talked to me, and I respect both of them, and they're great guys. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Frankie's just top time. But Tommy has a question. Ask him what Tommy Rich's address is.
Well, I'm going to tell you, at one time it's Griffin, Georgia, and I couldn't actually give you the actual address anymore, but you look for the orange cone. There's an orange cone at the end of the driveway, and you got to turn left there. And if you do that, then you're going to have fried chicken and barbecue with him and Doug Gilbert, and you'll end up in the hillbilly house where all the adult stuff goes on. Okay. And if you ever been to Tommy's, you know about the hillbilly house. If you haven't, then hey, brother, I can't give you any more info than that.
Man, I tell you what, that's great. Tommy Rich, I had talked to him not maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was trying to get me to come up to Tennessee, or was it Kentucky? I can't remember, wherever he was doing a show. And I was just like, I was already booked that weekend because I think he was looking for a ref, and he had hit me up about coming up there for something. I was just like, I'm already booked. But I would have loved to win. I think it was a 2-day show. As a matter of fact, I think JBL, Farouk, and a couple other people were doing some signings on those shows.
Oh, dude, I worked with Ron Simmons. Man,
Yeah.
what a quality guy. What a talent, dude.
Man, look, he's a natural athlete who just killed college football, then just comes into pro wrestling. He's one of those guys that was just one of those great workers that you knew what you were getting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it.
And I can remember watching his world championship win on WCW back in, I think it was 92, 93.
Yeah, that's when Bill Watts was running WCW. And, you know, just to touch on that a little bit, you know, I loved that because, you know, I got to pick Bill Watts' brain a few times and spend some time with him. And, you know, Bill was one of those guys that understood the product of that time and he got it. But that's a good example. When he went into WCW, the problem is his thought process had aged. Okay. But there was things about him that made the product better. He was a guy, and I heard him explain the whole thing about Ron Simmons, because up until that point, there was no black professional wrestler had ever been given a world title. And his explanation was, well, they dominate in football, they dominate in baseball, they dominate in basketball. Why in the world would, and here's what I think ultimately he was looking to do, because Atlanta had the Braves at that time, Ted Turner, you know, he saw, here's an opportunity to put a guy in the community because he's an Atlanta guy. And that's where Ron lives. I'm assuming he's still in Atlanta, you know, and we could promote him from within, and this is going to be epic. And unfortunately, once again, it didn't pan the way it should have.
No,
and it's a shame because Ron, I loved him and JBL together. I thought that was really magic. But I always thought Ron should have been given more opportunity once he got to New York.
Oh, wait. He got put in that. I mean,
that ridiculous costume.
He got put in a ridiculous costume. When I heard that he was coming in, when I saw him come in, I was excited. And then I saw this and I was just like,
yes. Well, and it's amazing because the guy who ended up getting that push was Booker later on.
Yes, yeah.
But I felt like Ron should have been given that severe run, give him that opportunity to make a severe run, because once again, you know, just athlete, could do anything, intimidating. I mean, if he gets hot at you, it's scary. You know, he's that guy, but quality guy. I found him very easy to do business with. So great guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I want to bring up something here though, that like, me and you've talked a couple of times, and we talked about Bordell Walker being one of the best. I mean, you know, Bordell, to me, I love Bordell. I think he's one of the best talents in the world. But there's also another guy that you've been in the ring with. I got a lot of respect for. I think it's great. And as a matter of fact, it was 9 years ago this month that this match happened. And I believe it was for the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship.
Steve Anthony.
Steve Anthony.
Oh man, you know, me and Steve go all the way back to my very first appearance ever at East Park Rec in Houma. He was a teenager, super young. A lot of people don't know he was trained by Stanley Little Bear, who was trained by Boris Malenko. And I'll never forget. He comes up to me, our very first conversation, and he's like a brother. I mean, straight up, we go back since the early days. And he comes up to me, he's a young guy, and he's like, "Hey, man, I heard you train with Malenko." I said, "No, that is not true." I said, "I did train with one of Malenko's people." He goes, "Yeah, me too. I can show you something none of these guys know." I said, "Really?" And he put a particular hold on me in the locker room. I said, "Oh, you do have some Malenko background," because it was kind of a Malenko trademark what he did. And I was really impressed. I said, "Well, who trained you?" He said, "Stanley Little Bear." And at that time I knew, I said, okay, Stanley did train with Boris. So that's where that comes from. And he was my first run in South Louisiana. He was in a tag team with another guy. They wore masks. They were called the Southern Patriots. And I ended up with some guys in a tag team called the Hard Time Express. And it was phenomenal. When I got in the ring with him, I was like, oh, is there anything this teenage kid cannot do in this ring? I was blown away. I was just like, I was floored. And, you know, he's one of those guys, a lot of people, because he's the way he is, he's quiet. He came in old school, had his first run with a guy named Ken Massey, who was one of Watts' guys and one of Jack Curtis's guys. And when he was 13 years old, they falsified his paperwork to get him a wrestling license in Louisiana. And so he has been legitimately doing it since he was 13. A lot of people just don't know his background. You got guys working for WWE right now that were trained by him. He was Harley Race's trainer for quite some time. And it's almost like guys are floored when I tell him that. I'm like, but he's so humble and he's so quiet about what it is he has done. You know, he's worked Japan. We've been everywhere together. And I would tell anybody, if you want to see something that is fantastic, it's on YouTube. There's a Steve Anthony, AJ Styles match, 4th of July, Benton, Arkansas. And it was an NWA show.
Was that when he was working with Bill Behrens? Was that when AJ was working with Bill?
No. This was after that.
Oh, okay.
This was probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And they kept saying, hey, don't run late. Don't run late because the fireworks shows start and you'll lose your whole crowd. 2 or 3 minutes into the match, the fireworks started because the show ran late. And let me tell you what I noticed. Not one person, not one left that arena to go look at the fireworks. And it was so phenomenal. We get in the back. Now, I knew AJ, and AJ and Anthony didn't know each other yet. And I come up to him, and we were eating after the show. I said, AJ, dude, man, look, thanks for taking care of my little brother, bro. He said, what, are you kidding me? He said, that guy was unreal. He said, dude, I let him call the whole match. So when I went to him, I said, did you call it? He said, yeah. He said, I couldn't believe it. He just told me call it. And I started laughing. And let me tell you, he was one of the guys that was just floored when he got in the ring with Anthony. He was like, dude, where's that guy been hiding? I said, well, he's a trainer for Harley. He goes, dude, more people should know about him. I'm like, yeah, they should, but so much about this business is not talent. It's right place, right time. You got to be talented, but
I can tell you this right now. Steve Anthony was one of the most talented people that I've ever seen. Him and Roderick Strong had that match. I thought that was one of the best matches. He had a match just a few weeks ago with Anthony Green that tore the house down. It's unbelievable what he can do and what he's still doing right now because he's the fountain of youth. Jackson Slade, our Greek god here, coming in, one of great talents as well as he's had to falsify some paperwork in Louisiana too, I believe, at 14 or 15.
Oh, that must be my Charge E. Jackson Slade.
But yeah, I mean, like Steve, great run.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's just been unbelievable, and I've been clotheslined by him, so I'll just go ahead and say this: that yeah, you wake up a little stiff next morning, but you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Steve's, and he's always thinking smart. He's always thinking what's good for the show, what's going to be this. So he does that. Bordell, another guy. This dude, you don't want to make him mad. And
man, my brother, I waved the banner of Bordell Walker for many, many, many years. And it's so funny how I found Bordell. I was booking in Alabama, and I had been a babyface at this point for quite a while, and had worked for Paul Bearer, had ran Gulf States, and I was his top guy. And I had done everything I could think to do, and I was like, okay, what I need is and legitimately I had went over on top guys in that area. He had put me over on Road Dogg, and I went over on the Rock and Roll Express. So Percy helped keep me legit for his company. And I was like, man, I need a guy that can come in here and just beat the crap out of me. Somebody who could just buzzsaw through me and beat me down and make this crowd believe it. And it was the early days of the internet for me because I'm a tech idiot. And I'll tell anybody that I'm not good at I'm scouring YouTube and I came across a video, and it's what made me stop was one of my mentors, one of the guys I trained with later on was Les Thatcher.
Oh, Les.
And matter of fact, true story, Thatcher wanted to put the Thatcher name on me at one time. And it said Les Thatcher and the guy that worked with him. I can't think of his name now. Anyway, he had a guy that he trained, and they were doing an event somewhere. It said versus Vordell Walker. So I'm like, oh man, there's the old man. The old man's at a live event with this guy. So I click on, and here comes this kid, Vordell Walker, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, he's stout. And they go out there, and brother, this guy is a beast. And I'm like, geez, buzzsaw. Okay, where is this kid located? Because I thought this is the perfect guy. My audiences haven't seen him, because I haven't seen him. So this guy will come in out of nowhere, just beat the snot out of me and go crazy, and it'll be great. The crowd won't see it coming. So I call up Thatcher. Les, hey, what's going on? I said, I got a question. Matt Stryker. That was the guy he was working. Now,
oh yes, Matt
not
Stryker.
the one from not the one from WWE.
No, I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about the one that went to Japan, did some other stuff. Yes.
He was one of Thatcher's guys, right. So I said, hey, I saw this match with this kid, Vordell Walker, and he goes, oh, yeah, okay. I said, man, tell me about that kid. He goes, well, Saxon, yeah, let me tell you something. He said, wonderful. Les gave him a huge thumb, but most respectful, just kind. This, and he goes, but I'm not sure he knows it to work. I said, oh, is he that? He goes, brother, I didn't think Stryker was going to survive the match. I said, okay. Really? He goes, oh yeah. He said, brother, he's rough. I said, Les, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. He said, oh no, he'll do business, man. He's great. Okay. Well, BIW in the early days, Josh started booking him. And so I'll never forget the first time we met. He was on an event. We were on the same event for BIW, and I went in and introduced myself, and I'm like, hey man, I got some stuff in Alabama, Louisiana. Are you interested? Oh, yeah, sir. I'd love to. I said, okay. I said, I got his number. I said, I'll give you a call, this and that. And it was so funny because sometime later, he was telling somebody, yeah, I met Saxon. He said he wanted to book me. Then I didn't hear from him for like 7 months. Then he called and gave me like 9 bookings. And I said, yeah, that sounds like me. And, I just hit it off with the guy. There was something, there was a personal connection I had with Vordell. Vordell and me, in a lot of ways, mentally, we're alike. When I tell you he's one of the best-hearted people ever, you could take that to the bank. He is that guy. That's a guy that I would fist fight, everybody in hell holding chainsaws to back him up, because he's that guy to me. And, if there was truly 2 talents that should have been given a bigger break, one was Steve Anthony, the other was no doubt Vordell Walker. And if I had $1 for every time somebody said that about Vordell,
you'd be a millionaire. Yeah, you'd be a millionaire.
He's that guy. That's all I can say, brother, because just when you think he can't go to that level, he'll go 3 levels higher. And if you ever seen him train, it's unreal.
Yes.
It's unreal. I did my last tryout for WWE with him. And when I tell you we crushed it, it was unreal how good it was.
All right, the tryout.
Yes.
What year was the tryout?
2000, my last one. Well, here's the thing. I was already blackballed. I couldn't get hired. Now, they didn't. The guys there didn't know that. The guys judging it was one of the office guys from WWE. The other was Ricky Steamboat. So they didn't know. And Steve Anthony was on the panel because it was done at Harley's. Okay. And this is one of those things where you got 95 guys, man. We're doing Noah camp. And then of course the WWE was involved. And so you have to stand there and be judged. And I mean, and they're brutal. They will just tear you down, everything you did in the match. And as God is my witness, me and Vordell went out there, we did our match, and we got out of the ring. And I'm standing there, and he's standing there, and Ricky Steamboat looked at me. And this was the feather for me all time in the wrestling business. This is when I figured, you know what? I was good enough. He said, I can't teach you anything. And I was like, I was embarrassed at first. I'm like, seriously, something. He said, the pin was 4 seconds late. I said, well, he goes, I know it was the ref's fault, but you said tell you anything. He said, I can't teach y'all anything. He said, matter of fact, stand over here. I got to judge everybody else's matches with Steamboat and the WWE guys.
Wow.
That's how good it was. Me and Vordell beat out 95 other guys. Our match was the best. And let me tell you who the 95 were. You can look this up online. Go look at the group photo. Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Michael Elgin.
Yeah.
Sigmund was there. Dude, when I tell you it was a who's who of guys that got pushed up and into the stratosphere in the business. And I was 42 years old at that time. They literally, Steamboat wanted to see my driver's license because he didn't believe I was that old. And finally, Anthony goes, dude, that's my brother. Yeah, he's in his 40s. So number one, I was too old to get hired. Number two, I'd already got blacklisted because I showed my rear end when I was working as an extra. I got in, and there's a whole another story about that. But I did that on purpose. I was making a point because same thing Tommy Dreamer told my son when he met my oldest son. He goes, you know, if your dad learned to play well with others, he'd have had a much bigger career. And nobody got in their own way more than I did. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, dude. I was my own worst enemy.
I think we all are our own worst enemy. I think we step in front of ourselves a lot. We hold ourselves back a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to get to asking. I'm going to let the listeners. I know they want to ask us some questions.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, I got one other thing to talk about and a clip to show that I pulled up. Now, I've worked with this company a little bit. Now, I don't know what era you worked with them in. I mean, because, you know, they were around for a little bit. And then when I say I worked for them, I was a usher.
Okay.
I cleaned up at the buildings. I helped set up the stuff. And it was in Meridian, Mississippi when I did that. Now, I don't know where this clip was at, but I know you come through Meridian a couple of times because I'd seen you.
Oh, yeah. Meridian was always a good wrestling town, man.
Yeah, it was. But let's check out TCW, this clip.
Oh, that's either me and Sigmund or
how about Kincaid?
Jason Kincaid. Jeez.
Look at this. Kincaid has something dangerous in mind.
We're going for a big move here. Oh, he rolls over Saxon right out here from the barricade. You got a great view of this. Look out, Irish whip. Oh, he catches the apron. Big back elbow and sends Saxon into the guardrail.
You want to talk?
Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah.
We did a best of 7 series.
Yes.
And TCW setup, it looks the same each time.
Yep.
Boy, you talk about another guy that can do anything. Straight West Virginia mountain hillbilly.
That's
Jason
what I was going to ask you about it.
that boy could throw back a whole mason jar full of moonshine and never bat an eye, son.
You know, he was very talented. He had some good moments, and this was the best of the 7 series that I can remember watching on TV. I remember I was at one of the shows. I cannot remember if it was in Meridian or if it was another city, but I can remember watching one of the matches at the shows. What year was this? Was this about 2012?
Oh, let's see. That sounds about right.
That's what I was thinking.
Here's the one thing that I'm horrible, and I tell anybody I've ever interviewed with, my timeline is terrible. I'll say, a couple years ago, and it'll be like 12 years ago. And I want to say that, let's see, 2000. I'm going to say somewhere around 2012 sounds right.
Yeah, I was thinking it had to be between the 2011, 2012 era, because I remember, I think Tarver was on one of the shows.
Michael Tarver worked for it. Let me tell you, TCW was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Matt Riviera, I worked in the office for Matt. That was one of those deals where a lot of people, there's a lot of speculation and all that. Oh, it had to shut down. Well, it didn't have to shut down because it wasn't drawing people. Okay. A lot of people didn't understand. Matt Riviera owns the largest sand and gravel company in the state of Arkansas. Okay. And wrestling was such an undertaking that it was really drawing him away from a multi-million-dollar business. And I think it was just one of those things where the crowds were there. We were out drawing the towns we went to.
Yeah, the crowds were definitely there.
Oh man, especially in Arkansas, we were drawing huge. We had great talent. Wolfie D came in, and Wolfie was doing the werewolf character that was phenomenal. You had Michael Tarver who had come in from WWE. Our production guy was one of Vince's guys. Matter of fact, Nelson Swegler was there when I got there, and me and him threw down, and I got rid of him. But that was a phenomenal run. And anybody, if you're interested, and if you've ever checked out Wolfie D's podcast,
oh, that's great. Yes.
He does one on TCW. He's got me, Sigmund, Roosevelt, a bunch of guys from that, and we all did a podcast together about TCW. It still runs in syndication in Arkansas right now.
Oh, and you can find some stuff on YouTube. I want to say this: a lot of that was good. And you talked about the Arkansas crowds. I think they even had double deckers at some of the Arkansas shows.
We did. Tommy Dreamer, when Tommy came in, I remember I was in the office, and he comes in and he's like, Saxon, there's a production truck sitting out there. He said, dude, what's going on here? I said, well, there's a reason you're here, Tommy. I said, yeah, this guy's doing it upright. He said, dude, you got catering? I said, yes, we do. I said, it was one of those things that just, it was an opportunity for a lot of really talented guys who weren't given that mainstream national TV exposure. And of course, Steve Anthony was there and did phenomenally. Tim Storm, who's been NWA champ a few times. I love Tim. He was there, and he was a big part of it. Cahagas was there, who was also an NWA champ. Jax Dane, who passed away recently, who's a really, really big guy. And it was just Sigmund, who's also been an NWA champ, tag champ many times over with the Heat Seekers, who's going to be coming into Florida here shortly for an XIW event.
Yeah, hey, tell them about it. What day is that? Is it in June?
It is June 15th, I believe, XIW Panama City. That's kind of been that's the group that reeled me out of retirement and talked me into fooling around with wrestling again after I wouldn't talk to anybody about it.
Wrestlers don't retire.
They don't. I stayed away for 6 years. I wouldn't even answer my phone for people. And finally it was, hey, just come out, hang out, yada, yada. Oh, Colby, hey, buddy. Tell your dad I said hi. And then I hung around, and all he did was just come hang out with the guys, come see the guys. Then it was, hey, what do you think about the show? And then it was, hey, you don't wrestle anymore, but what do you think about booking or getting involved? And I held out, and then finally I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. I said two things. As long as you take care of me and pay me, which don't get me wrong, that company pays its employees very well. I said, and it's got to be a good time. If it turns into a problem or some indie drama stuff, I'm gone because, I'm not going to be involved in anything like that. I said, I don't need wrestling. I've done very well for myself financially in life and in all other aspects. I don't need wrestling. I'm doing it because I want to give something back to the business. And XIW has been great, man. It's been a couple year ride. I've been enjoying it. And I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but there's another company we haven't talked about yet that I was very instrumental in, and I think I'll be popping up there soon also. So I'm going to be around. And being a booker, I try to look at all the talent in 2 or 3 states. So,
well, I can tell you, we got a plethora of talent all over the coast, all over the area. Jackson Slade said he would put that best of 7 series up against any era, and I'll tell you what, I watched it. I have rewatched it, and I tend to agree with him.
The only thing that I thought would have made that better, and I say this with all sincerity, I wish I'd have been the heel. And I tell people that, and they're like, why? I said, well, because I was a little aged. At that point, I'm in my 40s. Okay, Kincaid is young. I said, because he was so unusual looking, when we would get to towns, the young people wanted to like him. He had the dreadlocks and the long ZZ Top beard, and he was different. I said, had they not put Boyd Bradford managing him, the crowd would have turned on me because I look like a heel. I look like I'm angry and I want to fight everybody. And I said, the only thing I'd have done different in hindsight would have been that, because the young people really wanted to cheer him. So we had to really work at making the crowd not like him. And I never felt like they didn't. They just didn't like his manager. So Boyd Bradford did his job really well because everybody hated him.
Hey, I can tell you this. I'm a Rick Rude. Growing up, I'm a Rick Rude guy. I love the heels.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
I listened to this Boyd Bradford for about 2 minutes, and I wanted to slap the shit out of him.
You understand? Let me tell you something. You know, I love it because his whole character was the gangster from the Bugs Bunny cartoon. And I thought that was great. What a great idea. Yeah, Boyd was great.
Yeah, that was a good deal. Let's see here. I do have one question I want to ask you too. I'm trying to see here. If y'all want to ask Mr. Saxon the question, just type it in the chat. I'll put it on the screen, and we'll go from there. But I want to ask you a couple of names, and we'll get to it. We've already talked about Bordeaux. We talked about Stan. I want to know about one of the legends of the Mississippi. I want to talk about Phantom Gold.
Phantom Gold. Hold on, I'm drawing a blank here.
All right, he was a fortune teller. He used to come and bother you all the time. Tried to open up a wrestling company.
Phantom Gold. Man, I've got CTE. I am drawing a blank here bad.
I wish I had a picture, but it's not being found. But he used to come in and bother you all the time about wrestling stuff. This is why you was out of the business for a while.
Oh, wait, this is not the guy that started the thing in Bay St. Louis. Oh, geez, yeah. Bless his heart. You know, brother, here's all I can say. Bless the guy. I gave that guy 5,000 reasons not to fool with wrestling. Number one is somebody's going to strangle you because you are so high strung. I don't know how. You know, I've met some high strung people, and I can be that way myself. But good night. You know, I hate to be this, and that's going to sound really horrible. I finally looked at him one day and I said, "Kid, let me explain something to you. I only work with professionals. Okay, 2 things. I'm not interested in you, and you ain't got that kind of money." I said, "I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not in the wrestling business. Okay, I have no interest." I said, "Dude, I don't want," and I didn't want to be ugly to the guy, but everything he kept telling me he was doing, I'm like, "Yeah, that's wrong. No, you're doing it wrong."
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me something. I said, "No, you haven't. You're not paying me. You're not paying me to educate you." Okay, the guys that gave me the business, they didn't just give it to me. I had to earn it from them. Mike Davis, Dusty Wolf, Les Thatcher. You know, I had to get their respect before they'd give me anything. And it was, you know, yeah. Bless his heart, dude. I mean, I think the guy had good intentions, but But my understanding is that company has been took over by somebody else and is doing pretty well now.
Oh, they're flourishing. As a matter of fact, I'll be there this Saturday night, Mississippi Rumble, if you want to get to check it out.
Well, and I'll be honest, I reached out to I won't say who he is because he is one of the boys, but I reached out about us co-flyering events because we have something in Biloxi with Combat. I'm doing some work with Combat in Biloxi May 31st. It'll be our second event. First one was smashing success. And I reached out and
I love that venue.
I said, "Man, I'd love to come hand some flyers out, and then y'all can come to our event, and maybe some of the Hancock people will want to come to Biloxi." And that's one of those things that I wish more people would understand. You know, I see the stuff with the young guys arguing and all the ridiculousness about this company, that company. Let me tell you about wrestling fans. They don't care about y'all's feuds with each other. They care about going to wrestling matches.
They enjoy it.
And if you would help each other make money, you'd become more successful. Stop arguing and understand. If you don't like their product, well, you don't work there. Okay, but if their fans like it, let them like it. You know what I mean? We run in Panama City. There's another company runs in Panama City just like we do. I couldn't even tell you what they do. I don't know because we're focused on what we do.
Exactly. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Focus on what you're doing.
Put an ass every 18 inches, baby. That's what I'm interested in.
There you go. All right, we got a question here.
Okay.
What was the name of the luchador that had his kid in the matching outfits at the old Pascagoula exhibition?
Si me gusta la lucha libre. Yeah, that was Blazing Star, man. I just found out like a year ago he passed away, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was great. He did not – Beto was his name. He was from the Delta. Now, I used to work for Bob Serio out of the Delta for years and drew big crowds up there. He would come in and work with Bob, and he would bring his kid. His kid, everybody thought he was a mini. They thought it was an adult mini, but it wasn't. It was actually his child. And he would come to the ring with him, yeah, and they'd do a little performance thing. And that was XIW matches he came in for in Pascagoula, because they used to run over in the fairgrounds years ago. But yeah, unfortunately, I heard that Beto passed away, man, and that broke my heart, because it was hard to conversate with him if you didn't know Spanish. But what a great guy, man. He was hard worker, do anything he asked you to do, and he just loved the business. So yeah, blazing star, great dude.
Man, that is awesome. All right, I got something else to bring up that's been asked, and we'll get to it in just a second, because I'm sure you'll know what it means. But I gotta thank my sponsors one more time and check out our social media.
Yeah, I need some free coffee.
Yeah. Hey, we'll get you some strong coffee. StrongCoffeeCompany.com. Use the promo code ATI Wrestling. Get 20% off. Check out that Cinnamon Toast Crunch. This is protein coffee.
Hey, brother. Hey, nectar of the gods. I don't go anywhere. If you see me and Bordell Walker, one of us has got a cup of coffee in our hand. I promise you.
And Bordell's kind of looking for that hot light on the Krispy Kreme sometimes too.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so I've got. So here we go. Kevin Northcutt.
Ooh, we're gonna go there.
New Orleans.
Okay.
It was brought up in this. It was Northcutt and the New Orleans connection.
New Orleans Fight Club. Yes, sir.
Fight Club.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna use some decorum here. I haven't spoken to Kevin Northcutt in probably 15 years. And anybody that knows the background completely understands why.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to go into any of that. That's personal. But I will say this. Another that kindled, believe it or not, I have great stories, and I promise you they're true. I'm in a casino. I used to be a card player when I was young, playing cards one night. And somebody said, "Hey, why do you have a bandana on your head?" I said, "Because I have an amazingly strange-looking mohawk haircut, and I don't want to get messed with because I'll punch somebody in the face if they aggravate me." He goes, "Well, why do you have that?" I said, "Well, it's a wrestling thing." He goes, "Oh, come to find out, it's somebody that grew up with Kevin." He said, "Have you worked in Louisiana?" I said, "No, I just moved to Mississippi. I don't know anybody down in this area yet." He goes, "Hey," he literally gave Kevin my number, and Kevin called me on the phone. We had a conversation, and he was working for a guy. Their first show was a guy named Martin Franklin, who used to book out of New Orleans. Now, you may remember his daughter, Della, okay, later did started Wildcat with Luke Hawks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went out, met Martin, met Kevin. It just kind of went from there, and me and Kevin became friends for life. We bounced. The whole New Orleans Fight Club came from the fact that we bounced at Johnny White's together on Bourbon Street. He had a gig there. Me, him, Dusty Wolf, and Ken Timms during the holidays would work there as bouncers and make incredible money. So we started working together and traveling, and I remember the day he got his WCW contract. I was the first person he called, and I was thrilled for him. Unfortunately, like so many guys, he got in his own way.
Yeah.
The lifestyle got him. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, and I'll make this public, it doesn't matter to me. I really have nothing to hide. I'm a non-drug, non-drinker. And I have been since May 24 of 1985. So all the time I spent with the boys, I was sober and driving. Norman Smiley will tell you, dude, Saxon saved my life. Because one night I had a carload of them, and they were so inebriated somebody was going to die, so I had to haul everybody around. Kevin got into the lifestyle of the business entirely too much, and it became a problem. And I'll put it this way, and I'll leave it at that. When Buff Bagwell calls me and says, "Dude, you need to do something about your partner and his addiction," guess what? that speaks for itself. And, he's done prison time a few times. I've heard little things here and there. I've stayed away from it. When I walked, it was, "Hey, bro, I'm not dealing with you anymore. You got to go do what you got to do." Being the person I am now, I hope whatever he's done in life, it's turned out well. But if there was another guy that should have been a huge in the business. When we got to TNA, they had big plans for him. But unfortunately, he couldn't get out of his own way like so many others. And that's where I'll say right after they walked him, Lance Hoyt showed up. And if you go look at them when they're young, they're very similar.
I was going to say, yes, very, very.
And Lance and me became very close friends. And what a quality human being. Now, I will say this. We won a bunch of NWA tag titles, me and Kevin did. We traveled the world together. And for a long time, it was a good thing. But there comes a time, I had already went through a previous tag team and had a partner that the addiction took him over. And I went through that, and it almost ruined me because he got so much heat and things went so bad. I couldn't get booked because of who my partner was. So after going through that one time, I basically told him, I'm not doing this a second time. Yeah. You got to go do what you're going to do. I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. And then, of course, I heard about the incarcerations and all the other stuff that happened later. And I had been long gone by then. But like anything else, everybody loves a redemption story. So I hope whatever it is that he figured it out, man. I really do. Do I want to have a conversation with him? No. Some things you can't undo. So, but I hope he's doing well.
Hey, that's the best way you can do it. The best way you can put it. Hey, I know you know this name, Adrian Whisper.
Who is in the house? The drive-by's coming. Yes, sir. Now, there's an OG from way back in the day. Sexy boy.
Give us the Adrian Whisper story. I want to hear it.
Oh, let me tell you something. I'll give you the story. You ever heard of Joey the Body Barrett?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I had Joey on my old podcast a long time.
Okay. I tell people, imagine the Ultimate Warrior build with a guy who just loves to beat the hell out of everybody he comes across. He was trained by Bob Holly. Well, I get to Alabama one night. Nobody wants to get in the ring with Joey Barrett. I'm like, what's the deal with this guy? He comes up. Somebody said, hey, would you work him? I'm like, well, yeah, dude. So he comes up. This guy is jacked. Looks like a Greek god. Hey, man, how long you been in bed? And he gets real aggressive. Like, hold on, brother. What? Well, somebody walked by and they said, two guys already refused to get in the ring. I said, okay, I don't know this guy, man. So, yeah, hold on. Does somebody here setting me up or somebody not like me or something? I felt hokey about it, so I didn't want to do it. Well, Tony Sweat, who was also very large, Tony walks up to me and goes, hey, man, you going to work with Joey? I said, why? He goes, he trained me and I wouldn't work him. Well, that was a huge red flag to me. I said, well, I'm going to pass on this match. Hold on. So here comes OG. Here comes, back then he was Sexy Boy Busby. Back then, Gangster Destruction. Sexy Boy weighed about 170 pounds soaking wet, brother. And he goes up and goes, hey, man. Well, I had met him once or twice just casually, and he was funny. And I said, hey, Sexy Boy Busby's got his gear out in the car. He said he'll get in the ring with that son of a bitch. He don't care. And somebody said, I said, dude, no, I ain't going to use him. I said, why not? Nobody else will do it. He comes up, and I remember them asking him, hey, you got your gear? Yeah, he goes, you want to work with Barrett? He said, hell yeah, I ain't scared of that son of a bitch. And, brother, let me tell you something. They went out there, and the more Joey beat him, the more he fought back. And I'm watching, and the more this goes on, the more I'm liking Sexy Boy Busby because anybody's got that much grit, because he was a smaller guy back then. He was young, he was real lean. He didn't have a whole lot of muscle or anything to him. And, brother, I'll never forget one time, I want to say it was in Baila Battery because they had a stage with curtains. Brother, and it's a slugfest. He comes back through the curtains, and he's panting. He looks at me. I said, dude, you good? He goes, he ain't got enough ass to kill me. He flies back out, dives off the stage, punches Barrett right in the teeth, and, brother, the fight is on. And the whole time I'm dying. I'm like, why do y'all not like this guy? I mean, instantly, he was a hit with me, and he's about one of the funniest, craziest people you ever meet. Now, I always tell people this about Adrian Whisper. He's not for everybody. I get it. But it's a guy I've known for, close to 30 years. I watched his kids grow up. Okay. A lot of people know Jackson Slade is his oldest boy.
Yep.
I've been instrumental in his career. I think he's one of the most untapped talents.
Yes.
He has all the tools. I mean, when you're 6'2", 265, and he's pretty, which really sucks. He's a good looking kid too.
Yeah, he is.
you know, Whisper, you know, man, he's been around forever, dude. He was up in the Carolinas for a number of years, came back, and that's when he came back, and he was jacked. And I was like, "You're kidding me! You found the gym?" And he came back, looked like $1 million. And I went to Percy Pringle. If you remember, there was a character back in the old Southeastern called the Professional, all white suit.
Yep.
That was Percy. That was Paul Bearer's favorite character growing up. He wanted somebody to do Tarzan Baxter's gimmick, which was the Professional.
Yeah.
And I remember calling him. I said, "Hey, man, this guy can do that. He's got the body. He'll get the outfit, the whole deal, man. When you see him, he's perfect." And sure enough, he picked him up. He put the gimmick on him. We got him over to Gulf South, and you know, what can I say, man? I've known the dude forever. We don't always agree, and he'll tell you, "Man, that damn Saxon dude, we've had knockdowns." But not in a sense of, "Hey, I hate you," or anything. Is we're agreeing to disagree, but we'll be aggressive about it, you know. But when I tell you, it's been a pleasure that he allowed me to work with his son, his oldest boy, because to me, you got to think a lot of somebody to entrust your child with him. Okay, and when I started working with Jackson Slade, he was like his daddy. He wasn't 155 pounds. He was a beanpole. You know, he wasn't the Greek god he is today. And I always appreciate that, because a lot of people do know my oldest son would have, no doubt in my mind, transitioned into the wrestling business. He was an athlete, but my son broke his neck and he was paralyzed when he was a teenager. So I never got to, have the joy of training or getting in the ring and doing the stuff with Sean, my son. And here comes, Jackson, and I got to do a lot of that with him. And his daddy allowed that. And his daddy's never once intervened. He's never had a problem with it. And I'm going to tell you, I love Whisper for that, because it literally gave me opportunity to hand information and knowledge and stuff off to another generation of guys, And he's crazy, brother. I know. And don't let him smoke one and get the microphone in his hand, because you have to tackle him to get it away from him. He's worse than me.
I will say this: Jackson probably don't remember me, but I've worked with him a few times, not in matches or anything like that, but I've worked with him at Battle Zone a few times, and dude's got all the talent in the world.
Yes,
like
sir.
you said, he's got a movie star look.
Yeah.
He's got the whole package.
And for anybody who wants to get a verification, May 31st, Biloxi at the Sanctuary, he is booked. He will be there.
He said he wouldn't have trusted him with anybody but you, John.
See, I'm honored, dude. That means the world to me. It truly does.
And I just say this, man, like, you look at Jackson. I'm just going to Jackson for a second. The dude has all the intangibles. He really does. And I'll say you did a good job on that one. He's got the right height, the right set.
Well, Brandon, here's the funny thing is there's a lot of guys I've had a hand in that people don't even know I had a hand in. Okay. Nightmare Jeremiah is one of them.
Oh, I love Nightmare. Nightmare Jeremiah is one of my favorite people in the world.
I remember he was just a redheaded kid from, was it Natchez?
Natchez, Mississippi. Yep.
And another one that can do anything and is humble. And dude, I had a chance. He came to Biloxi and worked the show, and I had a chance to be around him, which I hadn't seen him in quite a while. And he's one I had a hand in. Man, there's been quite a few others.
Well, you brought up Jeremiah. We got to step in here. All right. He's been in the business 20 years.
Yep.
And I know that right now I'm going to say something that, it's taken away from our little bit of time here, but I want to do something. He's the most professional guy that I've ever worked with. He's I hate pulling back the fourth wall a little bit, but we will. He's not going to hurt you.
No.
He's going to protect you at all costs. But I heard, somebody that should have never been a booker in the world called him unprofessional.
That's a lie. I don't care who said that. That's a lie.
Yeah, that's what I said. And
lie.
I said, I don't care. You can tell. But the problem is when you tell somebody that you're unprofessional when they're not, and it gets out. it gets out to certain places, it does ruin the reputation. But the thing is, I know that Nightmare's on his last run this year.
I know, man. When I heard that, I was like, kind of broke my heart. I was like, oh no, brother's hanging it up.
But you can always count on him, no matter
Yes.
what. Because when you bring him in,
Funny story on him is, I had booked him for a couple of years here and there, and I couldn't figure out. He was one of those guys I couldn't figure out what to do with him, and I felt bad. I had him coming into Houma when I was booking for Elite.
Jeremy Awesome Jackson.
Yeah, I had him over in Alabama when I was booking over there, and Jeremy Awesome is what we called him. And he would come in and do solid work, and I'd end up putting guys over on him. And I kept telling him, brother, just bear with me, man. I'm going to come up with something. And for whatever reason, I couldn't. And then I was working a BIW event for Josh, and I didn't know he was booked. He walks in. Hey, man, he had longer hair. He looked different. He put the overalls on, and I'm looking, and I'm like, hold on, brother. Whoa. What are you doing? He goes, well, this is this other gimmick. I said, okay, tell me about this other gimmick. And I forget what he was calling it. Anyway, long story short, I'm an old school horror movie fan. The original Children of Corn has a guy named Courtney Gaines who's been in a million movies, redhead guy, had a weird look. And he put them overalls on, and I said, he's Malachi. Oh, my God. And it popped, and I was like, yeah, hold on. Well, at the time, my co-booker and one of my best friends, Frank Moore, comes in, and we get in a knockdown drag out over him being called Jeremiah or Malachi. I wanted to call, and I'll never forget. And me and Frank, I love him to death. He's one of my brothers. He got so pissed. No, it's Jeremiah because it's biblical. I said, what do you think Malachi is? But you know what? I don't argue anymore. Fine. He's Jeremiah. And once he put them overalls on, money. I just said, yep, that's the guy. I said, that is, that's the thing right there and I didn't come up with that. The thing he did, or I don't think he was wearing the overalls. I may have told him to get a pair of overalls. He was wearing something else. Anyway, and it just boom. And to me, that's so much the wrestling business when it comes to creative. People always want to know, oh, how'd this happen? How'd this happen? Man, a lot of times it comes out of nowhere. Just some random idea just hits you. Tommy McManus is a good example. When I first booked him, I looked at this kid. He was young, muscular, lean, pretty, guitar player, long hair, tattoos. I know nothing about the Highlander series. But I always loved the name Mercury because I thought Mercury Morris for the Dolphins was a phenomenal running back with a great name. And then McLeod because the Highlander dude's last name was McLeod, and that's how he became Mercury McLeod. It just came out of nowhere. It hit me in the head. I'm like, we're going to call him Mercury McLeod, and we're going to do this, and we're going to put him on TV and do this. And that's what we did, And it's so funny because the best stuff happens organically.
Yep.
It just kind of happens. And I tell guys that don't try so hard.
Yeah, don't force stuff.
Right. Take whatever it is that you identify with and make it your own. You got a guy behind you, and I'll just be honest. Vladimir Koloff is one of those situations. I hated it. Mm-hmm. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is terrible. This is some heavyset guy calling himself Koloff with a mask on. This is terrible. I did not like it at all. I saw it online. I hadn't met the young man. I didn't know anything about him. This is terrible. I watched a couple matches. I'm like, oh, why is he doing this? This kid don't know what he's doing. Yada, yada, yada. But I kept watching him online. And I would ask guys, that guy? Is that a parody? Is it like, are some people supposed to know he's not Russian? Or is he supposed to be Russian? I don't get it. I would tell people, I don't get it. Well, I booked him one time in Pensacola. And he came in, and he was just well-spoken, did everything I asked him to do. And I'm like, man, this kid's pretty decent in the ring. I don't think I spoke to him again for a couple of years. But what I did was I started watching him progress. Now, all you young guys out there, I do this. If you catch my eye, I will watch you for a year, 2 years. And what I noticed about Vladimir Koloff is the guy started to get it. But he also started to look different. He started to look like what a Koloff should look like. I'm like, okay. There ain't no fat Koloffs, bro. You got to be in shape to be a Russian because they believe in training. And I watched him evolve, and next thing I know, I'm like, man, I'm starting to really dig this guy. And I liked him as a person when I met him. I didn't dislike him. It was just a character I could not buy into. But I also started noticing that the crowd reacts to this character for whatever reason. They're connecting with this. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it now. Good job. Good job. And if he was standing there, I would say that in a heartbeat. Good job. Because he took something I didn't think could do well at all, made it his own, and that whole character has progressed and it's evolved. And in this business, brother, you got to constantly reinvent yourself. Period. And,
I can tell you a Koloff story myself. This is how me and Koloff kind of came together. So it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago. I had an old podcast. I don't know if you ever heard of it, King of Wrestling Podcast or whatever. And I kept getting people to tell me, and I was getting massive.
Before I forget 1 second, I'm going to cut you off. Danny Rowland, I seen you on there. Hey, buddy, how are you? That's another.
Yeah, let me pull Danny up. We love Danny. Danny's a great guy. He welcomed me open
arms. The Black Sheep, Danny Rowland. I had a heck of a match in Chalmette, Louisiana, in front of a packed house with Danny Rowland and Bobby Dahl. They were the Black Sheep. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. So 6 or 7, 8 years ago, I had a podcast, and, it was getting off the ground. Had already got, I was getting paid pretty good money to do it. And everybody just kept saying, Vladimir Koloff, Vladimir Koloff, Vladimir Koloff. And I was just like, what about it? I said, I don't even know who you're talking about. Send it to me. They send it to me, and I'm just like, okay, what the hell is this? I said, so this is supposed to be who I'm supposed to be doing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I go to a show, and I see Vladimir Koloff in person when he was 400 pounds. And he entertained me when I was there. And I was just like, okay, you can see the videos. It's just not connecting through the videos. But when I saw him live, he entertained me. I knew he had a lot to learn. So I waited till after the show, was talking to the owners of the company. And then this guy comes up to me, hey, man, how you doing? I was like, hey, I didn't know who the hell he was. I was just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I still don't recognize him without the mask on because I haven't seen him without it enough times.
The dude looked like a kid. I didn't realize it. I did not realize that it was Koloff. And he goes, hey, man, I'm Koloff. I was like, no, you're not. Get the hell out of here. One of the nicest guys in the world. One of the guys I would consider a brother.
Hard worker, near as I can tell. Very hard worker.
Work in. No shortcuts. Me and him have, been up and down the roads, and I love him to death and wouldn't trade him for nothing in the world. He's, one of the reasons.
I got a quick question. Did a Jason Harris pop up on this feed?
Yeah, Jason.
Oh, Jason Hemail.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Justin Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What do you think of my brother, Suge White? What are you talking about, Becky Chambers? That ain't your brother. That's my chargee.
Hey,
he's part. Suge is part of the dying breed, honey. I had him long before. No, let me tell you what. I will touch on this. Okay, this is how this business works. I got XIW, and Damian Wayne was doing a seminar.
Oh, okay. Damian Wayne, we got to talk about that in a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Y'all say a prayer for him. He just had surgery. He had to have some surgery done, but he's good. He was doing a seminar. I got to the building, and there's a group of guys in there, and I was short a guy. I had a cancellation, but I needed a heavyweight, which on the indies is the hardest thing to find, is a heavyweight that can actually work. And I get there, and there's this big bald guy standing in the ring, and I'm like, oh, okay, that fits the bill right there. Who is this kid? And I get up there, and I'm like, hey, I start talking to him. Where'd you come from? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, what's the gimmick? What do you do? He goes, well, I'm Suge White. Well, I instantly loved the name. I'm like, okay, explain. He goes, Thug. I said, Suge White. I said, brother, okay. And I don't know if he came up with that or it was given to him, but it was instant money to me. I'm like, okay.
I agree.
I'm digging it. And watched him work out, and I said, okay. And I had never seen him. I don't know how I hadn't, but I had never seen him before. And of course, where'd you come from? He said, well, Wildcat. Okay. There's a history there. I'm like, okay, do you handle your bookings or does Wildcat handle your book? No, I booked myself. I said, okay. I said, because once again, I like to clarify this because I know Hawks has always had certain rules about his guys working certain places, whatever. Now, this was years ago. I don't know how they do it now or whatever, but I did take a group of his guys to TCW before back in the day. But anyway, and he's like, no, I'm like, okay. So I threw him out there, watched him. I'm like, okay, bam, this huge upside. And I don't want to shove him over the top because he's got a lot to learn. But let me tell you what, huge upside.
Oh, very
and
yeah.
Kind of took him under my wing at XIW. Also here in Biloxi, I'm managing him. And let me tell you what, man, the only thing that's going to get in his way is him.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys. And one thing I'll tell you, and not to toot my own horn, I've been doing this a long time. If somebody's the goods, I'll know it. I didn't watch WWE product for years. But my oldest son, if you ever have a conversation, he will say, how can you look at something one time? I said, brother, because I've done this your whole life, son. I said, I sat down and watched a pay-per-view, and this is why guys like Suge come to mind. It was from Australia or something. There was women's match in the cage, and here comes this blonde doing backflips and doing stuff, and I'm like, oh, man, who is that? He goes, oh, she's kind of new. Who is that? Oh, it's Tiffany Stratton. I said, okay. Wow. Okay. And she's new? I said, she's in this type of match already? He goes, well, yeah. Well, then it dawned on me that I knew her. She used to put training videos out online when she was training for wrestling, and I saw a few of them. She did some stuff. We ended up in a conversation. And I was like, hey, you must have been a gymnast. Well, one thing is that, a lot of people don't know AJ Styles was a gymnast, okay, in addition to being an amateur wrestler. And I told my son, I said, wait a minute. I know, oh, yeah. I said, there's your next big star right there. Listen to what I'm telling you. That girl right there is going to be Trish Stratus big. If it's handled right, this girl will be huge. And he said, how do you know? I said, because she's only been in the industry 3 years, son. What? I said, that girl started training 3 years ago. And right now she's in Australia on a pay-per-view with the top girls. So how good does she have to be to get that far in 3 years? Not to mention she's gorgeous. I mean, she's a beautiful little girl, young girl. But
well, they don't go by beauty no more.
No, physically, look what she can do.
Yep.
And another one I told him about a couple of years back, I said, hey, you've been watching the thing? He goes, yeah. He goes, man, the Samoans are starting to get a big push. Mm-hmm. I said, it's a shame because the best one of the bunch ain't there. And he said, huh? I said, oh, no.
No, Jacob.
I said, you ain't never seen Jacob Fatu. He goes, who is that? I said, exactly. So I sent my son a video, and I don't even know how I came across it. I just randomly, I'm like, which one of them son is this? Because I've worked with all of them, and I didn't recognize him. And then when he showed up there, Sean was like, is that the one? Yeah, Pro Wrestling Gorilla. That's him. Or I think that's what it was. The company out of California.
Yep.
He said, dude,
Pro Wrestling Gorilla.
I said, give him a year, bro. This guy is going to be that guy. And sure enough, and my son shakes it. He goes, how do you do? I said, brother, because certain people have a certain something. And I'm going to tell you what Rocky Johnson, not Junior, the dad, told me when I tried out with him and Ron Slinker in Florida. I don't know what it takes to get over in this business, but you have it. But I don't know what it is. And that's what he told me about me when I tried out for him. Years later, I understood that because as you progress and you grow and you become smarter about the industry and you get it, you'll see somebody and you're like, okay, yeah, this sky's the limit. Okay. You just know. And you may laugh about this. I'll tell you another guy. I said that about the first day I ever bumped him. And not from a wrestling standpoint, but from a psychology standpoint. I got Stan Sweetan in the ring the first time back when he was 230 pounds. And yes, I did train him from day one. Okay. And he was a brilliant wrestler at one time, but it's the personality. It's the connection. He is a psychology genius when it comes to connecting with an audience. And that's why I told guys, y'all think about this. when I took the book at Elite, first thing I did was he was the top guy before I had the book, and I demoted him to a manager. And he hated me for it. He was so mad at me. He wanted to quit, but I did it for a reason. And I told DJ, who was the owner, I said, he goes, man, I said, listen to what I'm telling you. Just watch what Sweet 10 does. A year later, not only is he back in the ring, he's in a sellout main event in a 3-way with me, him in a cage, and Andy Dalton for the belt. And he's the most over heel on my show. And I'll never forget, DJ said, you knew that was going to, I said, you bet your boots I did. I said, what I'm trying to show the rest of the guys in this locker room is I put him at the bottom. He has no body. He's not attractive. He's hairy. But you know what he does? He uses every bit of that to get over. And look where he started. We got a sold-out crowd here tonight at East Park. It was jammed to the rafters. And look who's in the main event. Stan Sweet 10. Because he got in here. He gets in here. Okay? And he comes up with genius ideas. He's the type of guy, if you're booking, you want him around because he will come up with stuff you've never thought of.
Yep.
I said, and those guys are so important to the business. Yeah, the body guys, the look, the guys that do all the athletics. I mean, you take a Ray Fury and a Lucha Lacora, okay? Physically, there's nothing they can't do. Zip, zoom, boom, bam. Brother, they know all the holds. Oh, they're phenomenal, okay? But they will tell you, and Ray especially, I tell him constantly, Ray, the crowd loves you.
He said you could stick anybody in with Sweet 10, and he would definitely try as hard as he could to make them look as good as he possibly could.
Dude, he can make a broomstick get over, and he could lose to the broomstick and never lose an ounce of heat.
That's called a professional right there.
That's the beauty of it.
Yep.
For one year as a babyface, as the booker, I lost every match at Elite. The funny thing is nobody noticed except for DJ. He comes in one day, I'm sitting at the table, same table I sit every time we run. He goes, dude, you've booked yourself to lose for, I think at that point, for 11 months. And you're still the most popular. I said, I was going to keep doing this until somebody realized I got the pencil and I get beat all the time. I said, but listen to the crowd when I go out there. I said, son. And I think at that moment is when he started to understand. I'm like, Dusty Rhodes lost 85% of his matches, sir. He didn't win matches. He got beat up his whole career. That was his gimmick. JYD taught me this. Junior, I got to lose. I got to lose. And there's another guy that I learned, oh, my God, I could not put a price on what I learned from Sylvester Ritter the last 2 years of his life because I was with him constantly. I booked him for 2 years. And we hung out and we became the best of friends. But he taught me, the guys that taught me what it was to understand about being a baby face, a legitimate baby face. The guys I picked that up from were Tommy Rich. He was the first one because I was very young. Ricky Morton, who's one of the best baby faces that ever got in a wrestling ring.
Oh, yes, no doubt. Could make anybody cry.
Yes. Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
Because they understood what it was to make that crowd love them to the point that they would fight the opponent for them if given the chance. And you cannot put a price on that kind of knowledge. And that's what I try to tell the young guys. Don't disregard the psychology part of this. Okay? You can do all the moves. You're an athlete. Man, y'all do stuff now that we'd have never dreamed about. And I was considered that guy back then because I was doing lucha stuff before anybody in America was really doing that style. And vet guys would just chew my butts. Too much, kid, too much. But what I also learned was I got to connect with the audience while I'm doing this. And that is the important. Oh, Jason Souls. Go Tigers.
There you go.
There's Monty. Monty Warbucks.
This right here is one of my favorite people in the world.
I love Monty, dude.
Out of death. He is. He's absolutely great. I was just sitting there. I was thinking he's got to show up. He's. I'll tell you something about him. Like he can teach you.
Yes.
He can motivate you. He can get you up, and that's why he is so great at his at what he does in and out of the ring. And it's
Monty, and Monty is a true, in my opinion. I remember meeting him in the beginning, and I don't know how long he had been around, but he was younger compared to me, and I kind of watched. I was like, okay, here's your average heavyset, indie wrestler, probably broke into somebody's backyard, doesn't look like much. And then I watched him go out, and I watched him do certain things, and I was like, okay, hold on. This is a guy that has paid attention to details. The more I watched him, I was like, okay, this guy has spent a lot of time watching Buddy Landell, obviously. I said, and I picked, but you know what? I love that about him. I said, okay, this is a guy that is taking his situation and much like Sweet Tan, and he is using the psychology and all of that to get over rather than running a bunch of high spots and doing planches or any of that type of stuff. He's getting in these people's heads. And Monty he was always one of those guys that man, I just thought the world of, and never took a night off, was always going to go out there. I've been on cards where, man, there's a small crowd, but you're going to get the same Monty Warbucks. And to me, mad respect for guys like that. They understood. Even if it's a part-time thing, because he's a hell of a football coach, for those who don't know that, okay, which is what I was going to college for, too. A lot of people don't know I was going to get a deal, and that's why I was going to go get my physical education degree. But I started wrestling, and it screwed all that up. But Monty is another one of those guys that was always a joy to be around.
Yep.
And whether he was middle of the card or opening the curtain or whatever, he made a presence. Like you knew he was there.
You remember him at the end of the night.
You remembered him. Thank you. Absolutely. Great guy, dude. He's one of those guys I haven't seen in a really long time. But he
looks younger than ever. I'll tell you this. He don't look a day over 25.
That's all that good living, I guess.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple things. Chris Carpenter. The stories and characters are what sell tickets.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It is.
I'm gonna quote Don King right quick.
All right. And then we'll get to Brett.
Somebody asked him one time, how come all your fights have a story? And Don's reply was, it's got to have a story, because if it doesn't, it's just two big gorillas beating on each other. Who the hell wants to watch that?
Exactly. You have to have, if you look at things, going back like with Don King, that's true. A story, that's what builds everything up.
The idea of Hogan Andre was 1,000 times better than the actual match.
The match was
terrible.
Was nothing, it sold the place out.
That's right. 93,000 showed up because the idea of it, and that's one of the things I tried.
Hogan was going to get screwed, just like with the twin refs. All this stuff, everything building up to it. That's what sold the tickets. Absolutely.
The story is what got everybody's butts in the seats, man.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Brett Landry. Mr. Landry.
Irritating.
David Petrie Jr. Yeah, for those of y'all, that's the former owner of Elite, the boss. My other son. That is, he's irritating, Brett. I can't even disagree with you on that. There's times I just had to threaten to beat him to death, so he'd just shut up and listen.
Warbucks and Sweet Tan would have made a great tag team.
Oh my God. I never thought about that, but absolutely. Oh, geez, that would have been money.
Well, hold on. Here's something. Thank you for booking me versus Eric Watts, part of the Living the Dream.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I remember that. Dude, I almost felt guilty for giving you Eric Watts, because Eric never was very good when the bell rung. But I figured if I had to work him at TNA on TV in a 2.5-minute match, then you know what? Hey, brother's the best I can do. Oh, Calvin Rose. That's it.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. This scallywag here now. I'll tell you something. I love Monty, but Calvin's great too. Saxon, one of the best I've ever seen. Been in the ring with 45 minutes in McGee one night. Did you like to do all these 45 minutes, 60-minute matches? They were great, wasn't they?
Well, let me tell you, I tended to go long, but here's one of the reasons why. if a guy had ideas of going up top, and when I say up top, I mean going to Vince's office, the first thing you have to know is you can't run out of gas. Okay, straight up. First thing they want to know, Brandon. There's a lot of guys over 25 years I watch. Hey, I got an opportunity to go to the Fed for a 3-day camp. You know how many of those guys, once they went to that camp, quit the business? They would instantly disappear because they would get there and they would realize what it actually took to get on that, to just get in there developmental wise, not get the roster, but just physically. And the other thing too was, a lot of times it was an opportunity for a guy to say, okay, this is what it takes. Am I going to stick this out? Especially if I didn't know how much the guy had in him. I'll tell you another guy that will tell you if he was on here, Zane Stevens, if you know Zane.
Oh, yeah, I know Zane.
I worked Zane one night years and years ago. And he'll tell you, and he'll tell you straight out, he thought he was going to die in that match. And I told him, you're going to get up, you're going to finish this match, or I'm going to kill you. And he got up, and I gutted him through a match. And I know he was so upset with himself. And I wasn't trying to embarrass him or anything like that. The finish was fine. I got him through all of it. But it was, okay, I want to prove a point. But let me tell you what happened. I didn't see him for about 1.5 years. And I was booked somewhere, and he comes walking up, and this kid is in the best shape I had ever seen him in his life. And he comes there and goes, hey, Saxon. I was like, good Lord, Zane, you look like $1 million. He goes, man, that match we did motivated me so much. He said, dude, I'm a different guy now. It put him in a different frame of mind. Okay, I'm either going to step up or I'm going to step way down. And, see, Whisper's saying that too. Every time he told me take it home, I went 5 more minutes on purpose. I'd be like,
only 5 more minutes, you sure? Maybe it was 10.
That's because Whisper smoked all them Camel no filters his whole life. But the thing was, I wanted guys, and I never wanted to go out and try to embarrass anybody or anything like that. But here's the thing. When you're doing it to pay bills, and at one time I wasn't making a lot of money, but I didn't have a regular job. I was paying bills with wrestling. So I had to keep bookings. I had to keep butts in the seats. I had to keep making money. And I wanted guys to understand, even if you're going to do this part-time or it's a hobby, you need to take it seriously as far as your performance and what you can do. Because it's protecting, that's part of protecting the wrestling business. Okay. And if you're not willing to do that, then we're going to have a problem. Because here's the thing. If you can't do what a promoter asks you to do, what good are you to the promoter? If I walk up to a guy and I'm like, hey, let me tell you, Stan Sweetan is a guy that could give you a 40-minute match if he had to. Now, I ain't telling you he's going to run high spots. But what he's going to do is he's going to go out there and he's going to get 45 minutes and he's going to keep those people. And he's going to keep them invested. So my thing was with guys, you have to learn to use your psychology. I mean, I watched Larry Zbyszko stall a match for probably 12 minutes.
Here's our great friend, Josh Newell.
Oh, you told Sanjay that one. Yeah. Sanjay does not like John Saxon. I'll say that publicly, but that's okay. I don't like him either.
Oh, come on. We got to hear this one, man.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'm going to tell off. This was back when I was still really, really rough in the business. I was booking Natchez, I think it was. And there was a tag match. Are you familiar with Malik Avalon? He's XIW's champion.
Yes. I remember seeing him several times. I think it was like on YouTube or somewhere, but yeah, I've seen several.
Yeah, Malik, I've known Malik. He's from Mississippi. He started off in Mississippi. He's an indie guy, and I've known Malik, oh my God, forever. Well, I was trying to push him up the card, and I wanted to make him. So I said, you know what? We're having a tag match. And it was Malik Avalon and Vordell. Me and Clarice. And I don't know if you ever saw Clarice.
Nah,
Clarice was sent to me by Paul Bear. Clarice was 6'10".
Oh!
And he was a monster.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Well, first thing I said is, okay, don't put any heat on Malik, if I remember right. Anyway, it got sideways. First thing they do is start pouring it all over him. And I know what the thought process was. Well, Saxon's got the book, so we don't want him to take the heat. We'll make this kid take the heat. Well, no, I need the kid to take the heat like I asked, and I didn't get that. And in between, we had this referee, and for the life of me, I felt bad later, but I can't remember this kid's name. And he screwed up this match 3 or 4 times, and I lost my shit. We get back to the locker room, and when I tell you I lost it, I think the kid's about to start crying. I mean, I just, and I guess Freak Sanjay did out, and all of a sudden he was going to go placate to this kid, and oh, it's okay, don't listen to him or whatever. Well, last time I checked, Sanjay, I'm the boss here, not you. I knew him from TNA, and ain't nobody ever bought a ticket to watch you do anything. Okay? And that came right out of the guy's mouth from TNA. He's the one guy we can't book out to Independence. Nobody wants him. Can he do some crazy, cool stuff? Yeah. Does he draw money? No. Anyway, so, yeah, he didn't care for me. I think I was a little too rough around the edges for him. But guess what? This is the South, okay? This ain't L.A. It's not the Northeast. You got to get your hands dirty to get over in the South, okay? If you don't get gritty and a little dirty, these fans are not going to – they'd rather see a fist fight than a wrestling match any day.
You know what? You know, you talk about rough around the edges and stuff. You know what my dad told me when I turned 18 and I graduated? He walked in my room. I remember, I won't forget, it was August 5th, August the 5th, 2001. It was actually a month before the, 9/11. My dad walks into my bedroom and goes, "You're 18." I said, "Yeah, finally going to get to live life." He goes, "Oh, well, I hope you're right." He says, "I'm giving you 2 choices. You can stay here and go to school, or you can get out and get a job." And I said, "Okay." He says, "You got 1 month." I didn't listen to him. A month later, hard love kicked in. I said, "I'm gonna go stay with my grandpa. He loves me. He'll take care of me." I walked in, week there. He goes, "Yeah," he's you're good. You can stay here as long as you want. You got to go to school or get a job.
That's right. You better do something.
And he's like, "You got 1 week." Well, I've already been through that one time when my dad said that. So when my grandpa says it, okay, they mean business. So I went and got a job, and yeah, I ain't been without a job since. But that you need that. You got to have that kind
well,
of.
Well, right. But here's the thing too, and this is where we talked earlier about the business changes, it evolves. Now, like Sanjay was from a newer school of thought process. Okay. Punch on there's my boy. Hey, brother, I'm putting you over like $1 million. Just so you know.
He's done put you over and got you a contract and everything.
That's right. One thing I had to learn though is the new school guys, they were different. They weren't broke in rough like we were. They just weren't. They went to wrestling schools, and they were mostly ran by guys who needed them to keep coming so they could get their monthly payment out of them. So you couldn't haze them, you couldn't stretch them, you couldn't do any of that because these guys, they didn't know anything about that. Hey, I paid X amount of money to I love you back, brother. To do this, and so I get it now. In hindsight, I realize they weren't used to that type of thing. But I came in with guys that were ass kickers, man. Like, man, if Sika was running a show and they told you to do something, no, you can't get color whisper. It's a talk show.
He's always looking for color, huh?
Damn it, Abdullah, get off of here. But once again, different school of thought when it comes to that. And I understand it now. Back then I didn't. I just knew how I was broke in. It was, hey, we do it this way and it's my way or the bricks. Or, old guys that go out there and stretch the crap out of you. They'd beat the crap out of you. They didn't care because you hadn't put your time in. You didn't get any respect yet. You're here to serve. And that was the one thing, just to let the guys know how it was for us. When Mike Davis kind of took me under his wing, it was one of those situations where he says, you don't talk. You know why you don't talk? Because you don't know anything. You don't know nothing. Okay. You know less than nothing. And he gave me the old line. And even if you knew nothing, that would be something. You don't even know that. Okay. So you need to sit down and shut up and listen. So when I first started hitting locker rooms, and I was blessed because I was in there with guys, who's who guys from Mid-South territory, from world-class territory, from Southeastern continental territory, guys that had drew money. So I always just slid right in as close to those guys to listen to them talk. And because I wanted to know the things that they knew. And true story, and I think Steve Anthony could tell you this happened. Tommy Rich had come into work the territory, and he had been working down there on the loop for about 6 months, working for Frankie Jeffries, Martin Franklin, Don DiBiase out of Chalmette. They would all bring him in, and they'd run the loop with him. One night, I go out to work, and it's me and Steve Anthony. Steve Anthony is, if I remember right, he was the Shogun Warrior that night. Okay, we were all Shogun Warrior. It was about 2,500 different guys did the game. It was my outfit, but we kept changing. We go out there and we do this junior heavyweight type match, stuff that people weren't doing yet. I'm giving him forklifts off the top rope, stuff like that. Well, it was in the Civic Center in Morgan City. And I go, there's a long hallway going back to the locker room, and I'm sweating, and I'm thinking, man, that was great. I'm young, I'm feeling like $1 million. And I'll never forget Tommy Rich is coming the other way. Hey, brother. And I'm like, he goes, man, I'm going to tell you right now, that's some of the best wrestling I've done seen since I've been back in the South. And dude, he's putting me over. He goes, man, y'all, that's some shit right there, blah, blah, blah. I said, thank you. And I started walking again. He said, hey, mother. He said, man, what's your problem? And I looked at him and I'm like stunned. He goes, what, you don't like me or something, man? He said, what would you, man, I've been down here 6 months. You don't even talk. I said, hold on. I put my hand up. I said, excuse me, Mr. Rich. I said, Mike Davis told me to shut my mouth and don't say nothing ever. So I was trying to be respectful, keep my mouth shut. And he stood there, he looked at me and goes, oh, okay. But Mike trained. I said, well, Mike started, goes, man, you're going to be all right, kid. Go ahead. I was like, okay. And just to show you how it comes full circle in this business is when TCW was winding down WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans, we did a Mid-South reunion show. And on that show, it was a phenomenal show, the opening match was me and Bordell against Sigmund and Jason Kincaid. We get done with this opening match, and as soon as we get to the curtain, I got Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Tommy Rogers, Bobby Fulton, Bobby Eaton. And I mean, brother, when I tell you we killed it, we killed it. Open a match and, hey, brother, come here. And they just start, they're not laying into me, but they're like, Saxon, what are you doing? Dan, you went out there and did the main event. And they're pistol whipping. Tim Storm standing there, Tim and APOC, if you know APOC.
Oh, yeah, I know APOC. Yes, very well.
And Tommy Dreamer. And I'm sitting there and I got my head down. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I ain't said a word. This goes on for it seemed like an hour. I didn't say a word. And Fulton said his piece and Ricky and Robert said their piece and everybody said their piece except for Bobby Eaton. Bobby just said, you're going to be all right because that's Bobby.
Yeah, and, I was going to say, I went to a show that he was at and he stole my Rolex. But never mind. Anyway.
Oh, my God. Don't tell me that.
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay. I said, Bobby? Really? So I take this tongue lashing because we did too much in the opening match. And I never said a word. And Dreamer knows what's going on. He's looking at me and just smiling. And he said, hey, guys, let me let y'all know something. He was told specifically to do that. And they all looked and they were like, is that true? I said, yeah, Matt told us to go out there and blow it up right in the opening match. He wanted us to kill it. His exact words were, go show them Northeast assholes how us Southern boys can do everything they can do. That's exactly what he told me. He said, I want you to blow the lid off this thing, opening match. And it was so funny because later on, about a year later, I'm in Vegas for Cauliflower Alley, and me and APOC are hanging out together. He said, you know what's hilarious? He goes, I'm going to tell you something. I said, what's that? He goes, I had always heard what a hothead you were and that you were just hard to do business with. He goes, but I stood there and watched you take a tongue lashing. And you didn't say one word to me. I said, no, sir. I said, because the way I was working this business, I don't tell the Fantastics nothing. I don't tell the Rock and Roll Express nothing, even though I've worked with all of them. and they know what I can do. I mean, they all know me. I said, but he goes, everything I've ever heard on the indie circuit about you is 100% not true. And I laughed. I said, well, it's not all not true. I'm never difficult. When it comes to doing business, I'm easy. Josh Knoll at BIW told me, you are, after all the horror stories people told me about booking you, he said, you were the least problem guy I ever had. He said, and you worked for me every show for 14 years. He said, and I learned more from you than anybody else I ever dealt with in this business. And that was such an accolade. I was so proud of that, because I never wanted to hurt anybody in the business. I wanted to make the business better for everybody. I want it to be good. And if it's good, more people will come to it. More people will buy into it. And my thing is, understand that if everybody gets that frame of mind and we're all on the same team in the locker room and we're all working to make it better, that's when your shows are at its best. When everybody's in there understands, guess what? It's
when
like
they're trying to elevate the show, not just themselves.
Sometimes you're the hero and you ride off in the sunset. Other movies, you get killed in the opening act.
Yep.
But then you get to come back later on another movie, and maybe on that one, you'll be the guy that rides into the sunset. And I will challenge any guy in this business. And this is something that I've saw recently, because I'm a very spiritual person. I was watching the interview. If you ever listen to old 80s metal, it's a guy named Mark Slaughter, okay, who was hired to sing in a band. Oh, where's that? Hey, where's that air horn, Kenneth Wade? But they were interviewing him about, he was under contract to a record label, and they put him singing for Vinnie Vincent. If you remember who Vinnie Vincent, famous guitarist, very talented. Yeah. Vinnie Vincent hated him, didn't want him in the band, but they needed a singer. They had to go on tour. They needed somebody who could sing. And he kept saying, Vinnie always told me, my problem with you is you're just not that talented. You're not that talented. He said, and I never said anything. It's his band, but I'm just doing what I'm told to do. And they kept going and going. And yeah. And finally he said, I looked at him one day. I said, Vinnie, it occurred to me, we're in the entertainment business. So the crowd gets into what I do. So is it really about talent? Is it about who's the most talented? And that kind of I said, that's the best explanation to the wrestling business I've ever heard. Is it really about talent? Well, if you're talking physically, no. It's about who connects. If you could connect, they said that about Vince Neil, and I'll use that as an analogy.
Oh, Vince Neil, God.
Everybody hated him when he came out, and they opened up. I don't know if you're aware of this. They opened up at a festival called the US Festival in 1982. Second day was
a year before I was born, but
okay,
yeah.
Brother, it is on YouTube and it's phenomenal. So he is bouncing around the back. He's high energy. All the other bands are Van Halen, Judas Priest. All these are made bands. And this guy, everybody hated him. And somebody said, is this really the guy you signed? And he said, yeah. He said, I don't care how annoying he is. Watch what he does to the audience when he gets out there. And when he got out there, brother, that audience went apeshit. And guess what? That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yep.
And I tell guys that all the time. We're trying to accomplish that. So if my job, kind of like when I was a heel, I would never allow you to be a fan of John Saxon. I don't care who you were.
No.
I don't believe in heel marks. There's no such thing. Nope. I'm going to make you dislike me no matter what. And that is my job.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. We're going to have to start wrapping up here. We're definitely, John, I just want to say this.
Yes.
Would you be willing to come back on and do another one soon?
Man, I've had a ball doing this. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what? Yeah, absolutely. And man, I want to give a shout to everybody I've seen that's chimed in, man. I'm like, dang, bro, this guys I hadn't seen or talked to in a while. And I'm sitting there thinking,
we got that kid, Vladimir Koloff. Let's read this one real quick. Just was able to tune in a little bit ago. Hope all is well. Yeah, you tuned in. You tuned in to hear us talk about you. And
I got myself looking to push through. What would it be? Oh, man. In today's market, it's so hard. I get that a lot with young guys. What can I do? And here's where I'm going to be honest to you. Nowadays, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Okay. So here's my thing is exposure. And when you think you have enough exposure, you need to get some more. And this is what I tell every young man in the wrestling business. Okay. This business is one thing. It is shameless self-promotion. If you wait for somebody else to make you, good luck. It's never going to happen. Okay. So here's the thing. Get out there, meet people, talk to them, get involved. Get out of your comfort zone. And that's one thing that happens is like right now, I heard there was like 5 independent wrestling shows in Louisiana about a month ago, all the same night.
Yes.
Okay. And that is great, dude. Okay. That's wonderful. But it's not going to get you, if you're trying to have a career, that's not going to get you to that career. Okay. What you need to do is you need to reach out, send paperwork, send pictures, send videos to anybody that's booking, doing business. Let me tell you how I got on with Henry Hubbard out of St. Louis. And that's how I ended up traveling overseas, working with the biggest names in the business. And I was on every show Henry booked. I literally went all the way to Oklahoma City. They wanted me to referee, and I did not want to do it. I'm like, referee? What the hell do I? Okay, and I didn't want to do it, but Dusty Wolf, who's one of my mentors, and Kevin Northcutt, they said, dude, we're covering the expense. Come go with us. Just do it. Man, I did not want to, but guess what? I got in the car. I went all the way to St. Louis, Missouri, 12, 13 hours. I get there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wow, Too Cold Scorpio, George Animal Steel, Jake Roberts, kind of a who's who of the business. I'm like, oh, wow, stacked ass card. Somebody didn't show up. Somebody walks in, Ken Timms, Henry, the kid's good right there. Put him with me. Since this guy wasn't there, he said, you got gear, kid? I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, second match out. Dude, I go get my stuff, put it on. I wasn't even supposed to wrestle. 7,000 people. Me and Timms blew it up. Henry Hubbard booked me pretty much for the rest of my life and paid me big money. Took me overseas to Asia. Brother, just because I was in the right place at the right time and I was willing to do what was asked of me. And there's where, and I'd love to get into it. There's certain things about the business I don't agree with. Okay, that gets pushed off on indie guys a lot. That I'll tell them, no, that's not how you do business. You're getting used. And that's one thing that does piss me off is I see people taking stuff out of context so they can use the workers to do stuff they should be doing for themselves. Okay. That's a whole nother show. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's the thing I would love, and guys, I'm not the greatest at getting back, but I love to give knowledge. Anybody out there, if you have questions or there's something that you want to ask, hit me up on Messenger, man. I'm on Facebook. I'm easy to find. If you're interested in coming in, I'm always looking for talent. XIW is always looking for talent. I got a lot of guys coming in out of Tampa right now. A lot of talent down there. But I like to mix it up. You know, feel free to hit me up anytime. And oh Lord, Virgil took liberties on the indie guy last time. Saxon said, put him with Whisper. He won't do it. That's right. That's true. That happened. Yeah. Whisper about beating Virgil to death. Something, if you don't mind, Brandon, I'm thrilled that we did this, man. I really am. If I could, I'd like to just shout out to some people that I really hadn't really touched on.
Look, the floor is yours. I just want to ask you about one person, and then here's what I want to do. I'll let you shout out whoever you want to. You talk about whatever you want to. I just want to ask about one person that has, helped me a lot. He's, a person that's, when I was starting out doing the podcast, starting in the wrestling business, I watched every promoter from close and far.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked something good from everyone. I picked something bad from everyone.
Right.
But one of the guys that I learned very much from was Josh Newell. And I just I got to get your opinion on that. And then when you get done with that, you do what you want to do. This is the John Saxon show on the way out here.
Okay. The reason I said I want to shout out, that was the first person I was going to shout out to. because I haven't touched on Josh or BIW very much in this time we've been talking. You know, if there was ever the epitome of promoter, and here's what I tell when guys say, "What's wrong with the wrestling business?" One of the first things I tell them is, "There's no promoters anymore. Everybody wants to be in the ring. Everybody wants to be the star. Nobody wants to put in the work. To be successful, you have to promote. You have to go to the town. You have to work the town, get involved in the town, do all those things. I have formula, and let me tell you what, Josh Newell, I think I've seen him on the mic one time in 14 years at his own show, because he's not trying to be the star of the show.
I bet that was a sucky moment.
He was uncomfortable because that's not Josh.
That's not what he does. I'm joking with you, Josh.
But I tell you what, that's a guy that gets in that car, he drives hours, hits that town, he works that town, he promotes his guys. He will give you every bit of promotion he has in his body and give you that opportunity to be successful at BIW. When people ask me, I tell them, let me tell you what, once again, you know who's ego driven and running the show because they want to be the star of the show. But then this guy's not even in the show. He's promoting you. And let me tell you what, from day one, he is that guy. Me and Josh are personal friends. Okay. And there's a bunch of guys out there that don't even understand. Don't lie to me if you work at BIW, because all I got to do is make a phone call. I'll find out everything about you in one phone call. And if I see you, if I see you and you're talented, I'll say, "Hey, Josh, have you seen these guys? He's got some coming up right now that works for XIW." And I said, "Hey, have you seen these guys?" He said, "I got them coming in." I said, "Controversial Inc., brother, they're money. These are true pros that do their job." I said, "LaBrava's a phenomenal female workhorse."
Yes, she is.
They are fantastic people. I said, "Trust me, they will help your show. Let them come in. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." Another guy that I got to work with in the last year or so, it's fantastic to be here. Damian Wayne, man. You know, we were always in opposite places, but we were well aware of each other. But the other promoters, hats off, Wild Thing over in his area. We don't talk often. Every once in a while, I do get a chance to speak to him. I see he's drawing crowds. So my thing is, somebody is promoting the crap out of this show. They have to be.
Yeah.
You know, just those are the people that I appreciate, because, man, there's no glory in being a promoter. The glory is all, out in front of the crowd. Yeah. That's the real work. And that's the one thing I told DJ.
Nobody knows who the promoter is half the time.
Right. And the thing is, just remember this. If you go out there as one of the boys, or you sandbag, or you don't work hard, and you cost this promoter tickets, guess what's going to happen? He's going to go out of business. Okay? And all of my time in the wrestling business, all the time I was in it, okay? I left TNA because I chose to, not because I had to. But when I see a millionaire like Dixie Carter jumping up and down on a chair with a long neck Budweiser in her hand, screaming for the boys in the ring, I said, this company's going to last as long as this woman's daddy keeps giving her money.
Yep.
Okay? Because that's not a promoter, okay? That's a mark. Okay, yep. So every time you go out and work for one of these guys and you cost them tickets, guess what? Eventually they're going to be out of business, which puts you out of business. And one thing I never want to be the reason somebody went out of business. I want to be the reason their business kept going. And for anybody that never asked, and I'm sure they all wondered, why did Elite stop running in Houma? It wasn't because we had to. I got tired of fighting the commission, and I got tired of watching my promoter get treated like garbage. And I finally just told him, "Hey, kid, best thing you can do, shut it down and go work for everybody else. Then you don't have the aggravation of this commission anymore." We didn't have to. Elite could still be running right now. I've had people offer to give me money in Biloxi a dozen times. I've stayed away from promoting for one reason. I don't have the time to get out there and beat the street. That's why I don't do that, because I don't have the time to dedicate to it. And I won't do something halfway.
Well, that's what a lot of people don't understand is they want to sit here and they want to think that you can just do Facebook, and that is not the way it works.
No. It helps. Social media helps.
It does, but you got to hit all angles.
Sponsorship. Get out there in the community. Get people involved. Give them a reason to come out. And when they come out, give them a show that hooks them. Okay? If you give them a lackluster show, guess what?
That's what you're going to get.
You're going to lose in the long run because nobody's going to keep coming.
Yep.
So, man, dude, this has been a blast. I'm glad we did this. Man, shout out to all the boys from the last 20 years. I'd love to come on and take more questions if people are interested in doing that. Just
I'll tell you what. Anytime that you have a free time and we can get it to go, we're going to do this again. I definitely would love to give it another shot because I just, with all the knowledge that's coming out, and if anybody right now, I'll go ahead and give it out. John, if you got anything else to say, I'll give you just a few minutes. We'll got three. If we can get three questions
okay.
in the chat. We're gonna let John speak for a minute. You got three. Get your questions in because we've had a lot of good questions tonight.
Ask me anything, and you'll get a straight answer. It may not make you happy, but I'll give you a straight answer for.
And with Josh, we talked about Damian Wayne for just a second. That's another one. Tell me about Damian. I mean,
man, true throwback guy. Another one of those guys that could have been much bigger than he was, and just a true talent and an old schooler, man. His whole gimmick, real fight shit. That's what he does, and he does it so well. And we've been in a long-term feud at XIW, and brother, it's been an experience. Because he was one of those guys that I just never got a chance to spend any time with or do any work with. And once I did, I was like, man, who was my best tag team partner? Whew, man, dude, that is so tough. See, I have to break that down because best is so broad. My favorite, my best, most talented was a very short tag team that I did with Steve Anthony, but it was very short. Me and Northcutt was really good, but he was a very selfish tag team partner and wanted to get himself over. My funnest tag team partner was Rip Steele, Walt Lally, for anybody that remembers Rip. And I'm sorry, I haven't even touched on him, and he's family. I mean, legitimate family in my house. That's the guy that made it to OVW. And had he wanted to hang around and stay there, they would have signed him. And the lifestyle is what kept him from going bigger at OVW. He got homesick and just didn't want to pursue it as a career. But he was my favorite because I raised him, legitimately. He grew up in my house with my sons, and of course being much, much older. But I'd have to say, yeah, Anthony most talented, Rip Steele favorite, Northcutt and me most successful.
Here's another one. What's the main event June 21st at Killing Fields on XIW? I got to make it to an XIW event soon.
Brother, we'll be glad to have you.
I have to come down there and check one out. I'll have to look. Maybe I can June 21st.
You got to open it. Where are you out of, Brandon?
Meridian.
Okay, you got an open invitation, brother. Be my guest. Come down, man. Look, it'd be great to have you. The main event, June 21st at the Killing Fields, XIW. Well, I imagine, I'm a firm believer in having the title match be main event. So, Wanda, won't you marry me now? Or Herman, that is an unfair question, brother. But since Whisper mentioned that, Malik Avalon is the champ. I'm pretty sure if I go back and look at the booking sheet, I think he's on top. And we got a new kid coming in for that. And I believe he's out of Georgia, if I remember right. I think it's Georgia. It's he's out of. So I think that's going to be the main event for XIW. But you got just a list of talent.
Tyson Maddox, yeah.
Tyson Maddox. Is he out of Georgia? I think he's out of Georgia.
Yes.
Good, impressive looking kid. I've never worked with him before.
Oh, he's got a great body. Yeah, he's got a great.
My co-booker, which I actually have, my co-booker booked him. I'm giving the co-booker a lot more responsibilities nowadays. I'm like, hey, he shoots him at me. I look at him. I'm like, you like him? I said, come on, we'll give him a chance. Let's see what happens. There's a lot of talent. Damian Wayne and Controversial Inc. They're going to go at it again. So that right there is worth the price. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen Salazar,
anytime you get to see Damien is worth the price. Anyway.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, Salazar. Let me tell you what, that boy he's great heel and he's tough. So absolutely, that's worth the price for sure. I will touch again for anybody listening. Biloxi, May 31st. Combat Pro is going to be here in Biloxi, my hometown. That's where I'm out of. Jackson Slade's going to be on the bill. Big Sal from XIW, Ray Fury, Lucha Lacora. It's a loaded card, man. So anybody in the area, hey, tickets are on sale online. Go to the Sanctuary, go on their website, order them. Come out and say, hey, anybody comes out and tells me, hey, I heard it on Brandon's show, man, we'll give you some free merchandise.
Hey, that works. Hey, look at that. You can't miss that.
That's
you know
right.
what? When is the Combat Sports Pro?
May 31st.
May 31st. Let me look at that and see what I got on my calendar. Let me see if I got anything on my calendar. I'm going to have to make a trip down. Yeah, that's the day after my dad's birthday. You know, he was born before George Washington, but, you know, it's his birthday that day. So,
hey, don't discount us old guys now.
Oh, I don't ever, but I'll just say this. John, I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I thought we had a great time. We can definitely do this again. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get it set up if you're available and do something else again.
Heck yeah, man. Anytime, hit me up. And like I said, anything I can do. Shout out also. Maybe I'll be in the Kill on Saturday. Maybe.
Oh, come on. You
Maybe.
Gonna say that? Come on.
Well,
I think, hey, I'll tell you what. You need to. You need to come out.
Is that at Hancock High School?
It is. That's where
I've wrestled there.
All that money. I mean, we went to school. He went to school.
I've wrestled there a few times in my career, sir. Hancock County High.
I've actually been in that building a couple times myself.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I used to live in the Kill, believe it or not. So, but
no. Says he'll see you May 31st. I think you're going to see him May 10th. Yeah, hopefully. I'm hoping. We need you out May 10th. We definitely do. Come on out.
Sounds good. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it, man. And hey, any of you guys, if there's anything I can do to help career-wise or just you want information, anything, just hit me up, man. Hit me up on Facebook Messenger. That's usually the best way to get me. And hey, if I can pass something on that helps you, by all means, man, I'll be happy to.
And I can tell you right now, you definitely have to take them up on that opportunity. You do not want to turn that opportunity down right now. But thank you, John, for coming in. We're going to definitely get you back on. Hopefully see you this weekend.
All right, brother. I just realized this thing's at 1%. It's a dude to shut off any second.
All right, man. Hey, guys, good thing we made it here, didn't it? Take it easy, John.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right.